What's up everyone? Today I want to talk about one of the best builds for leveling a warrior in Path of Exile 2. And it's a Giant's Blood dual wielding build that destroys everything in one hit. This is one of the easiest builds for going through the campaign because every single thing you come up against, you just one shot. You go from pack to pack, you jump from pack to pack, and everything just gets destroyed in seconds. And then when you get to bosses, it's just as easy. This build will put bosses down in a couple of moves. All of their mechanics doesn't matter because you'll take them down in seconds. So first I'll go over the mechanics of how the dual wielding two-handers works, and then how we're using the setup to destroy bosses in a couple of seconds. And then we'll go over an early game version of this that you can use in like Act 1, early Act 2, when you don't really have many gems, so I'll try and give you something to start with. And then once you get everything online, we'll go over the full version that you should get in like late Act 2, Act 3, that will destroy everything. Okay, so first let's go over the build, why we do so much damage, how we're one-shotting everything, and how we're able to take down bosses in just a couple of hits. So first is because we're dual wielding. We're dual wielding two-handers, giving us a massive amount of physical damage. And then we take this note here, Giant's Blood. So you can wield two-handed axes, maces, and swords in one hand. Triple attribute requirements of weapons. That means you can have a two-hander in each hand and have all of the damage for both of them together. On top of this, we have a ton of strength because you need a lot of strength now to equip your weapons, which gives us a lot more life, meaning we can pretty much face tank all of the boss's abilities. We can just stand there, do our massive attack, and be fine. We're completely fine. We can just heal through any damage we take. Okay, now, the reason we're able to destroy bosses is because of this move here, Sunder. So if you look at Sunder, it has a really, really high attack damage. So right now where I am, it has 397% attack damage, which is massive. And then if we go down here, consumes fully broken armor on enemies to guarantee a critical hit. So that's how we're chunking like a quarter of their health in one hit, or half of their health in some cases in one hit, because we're consuming the broken armor, hitting with this 400% attack damage, and critting with it every single time, guaranteed. But yeah, that's how the build works. I'm going to go over it in a lot of detail, but first I want to go over an early game version of what you do before you get Sunder. So while you're leveling, what do we do until we get Sunder? Start unlocking our passive gems, things like that. So let me just get this up here. This is the build that I'll make myself smaller as well. So this is all linked down below. There's a full build for this. And if we go into it, you can see here, here's the mid-game version. Here's like the full version of all the clips you saw at the start are with this. This is the version that you'll be using. But until then, I've got an early game version here. So you can click this, and this is like Act 1, early Act 2, before you get Sunder. So here's what we'll be using. So first you want to be going for Rolling Slam. This is you get this at the very start of the game, and this is what you're going to be using to deal your big damage until we get Sunder. So if you go into here, we have Devastate, support gems, fully break armor when inflicting a heavy stun. So as we're stunning enemies and building up the stun meter, we hit them at the end, we do the heavy stun, and we break their armor. Then we do Overpower, hits with supported skills called 50% more stun buildup. So yeah, that's your first big move. You kind of like roll in, hit the ground, you roll again and hit again, and you've got good mobility, good damage, and great on bosses. Now, for AoE, you have a couple of options. I mostly used Bone Shatter. So as enemies are like getting low health, you can use Bone Shatter, and it will trigger like this big shockwave, big damage, and kind of takes out everything around it. You can back that up with Impact Shockwave to have more of those. And then you can have Execute, so they deal 40% more damage with hits against enemies that are low on life, meaning you're kind of like doing over damage to them, which is good because we have this here, Herald of Ash. So Herald of Ash is your passive buff. So when you unlock your spirit in Act 1, you'll be able to pick a passive buff, and we go for Herald of Ash. So when you overkill an enemy, when you deal too much damage to an enemy, you everything around you takes damage. Everything around you gets ignited. So this is our good little combo. As we're going around, you rolling slam into something. If anything's left, you bone shatter it. Everything else goes down. So that's like your little triple. We also use Infernal Cry. It's okay. It's kind of like a fire AoE. I didn't use it very much, but when you have lots of mobs, it is good for getting a bit of extra damage in. You can use Premeditation, so they deal more damage, and then you can use Magnified Effect, so they have more area. This is when like your screen is full, when there's loads of enemies. That's you use Infernal Cry. And then as you're leveling, you're going to unlock Leap Slam. This is an incredible ability. You jump in the air, you land, and you deal a slam. You consume fully broken armor to cause stun, you deal damage, you knock things back. The best thing is you don't just have to jump into enemies, you can use it to jump out and save yourself. So this is really, really, really good. You can take Holy Descent, so when you land, you get a healing ground for 4 seconds. So as you jump into a pack of mobs, you actually have a passive heal going off underneath you. Then you can take Fist of War. Attacks are ancestrally boosted, which gives you like this damage boost. So yeah, this is the setup for leveling. It's more than enough to get you through Act 1. You've still got loads of health. You've still got armor because you're a warrior. You've still got a ton of damage because you're using a big two-hander. But yeah, that's your early game gem setup. And then early game skill tree, what you want to be doing is come across here, melee damage, strength, Just take this front route for loads of damage. Come down here. You've got a cluster here for two-handed weapon damage and increased stun. Then we go all the way down here, get your Giant's Blood. That should be your priority. Get Giant's Blood, and then you can have a two-hander in each hand. Once you've done that, you're going to realize, oh, I don't have enough strength. Then we get the strength nodes. So up here, we have 25 strength. So go up here, 8 strength, 25 strength, 8 strength, 8 strength, 8 strength. This is going to let you equip most of those two-handers in both hands in the early game. If you need more, there's more here. 12 strength, 12 strength, 12 strength, and then increased damage per 15 strength. That should set you up easily for the start. And then what you want to do is click this mid-game version, and then start moving into this, which we'll talk about now. Okay, now back in the game, let's talk about the full version of this. Let's talk about the full version to just delete bosses. And I will say, if you like this style of video, if you like this style of build, I'm making a ton of Path of Exile 2 content, so subscribing to the channel would really help me out. But let's get into this. So where do we go from what we've already talked about? So the stuff we already have, Rolling Slam, we already have the Devastate to increase heavy stuns. We already have the Overpower for stun build-up. Once you get your third slot, you'll take Rage, which gives basically, Rage is just an extra damage buff. If you don't know how to get extra slots, like a third slot on your gem, you just need these. You need these lesser jeweler's orbs. So you'll find these as you're playing. You'll find them, they'll just drop from mobs. You'll get a few, I think, just from playing through the campaign, but they'll give you an extra slot. So we'll put Rage on there. For Leap Slam, we've already talked about Fist of War, the damage boost. We've talked about Holy Descent, where we drop and we leave a little health pool to heal from. And then the third one, we take Momentum, which means as we move 2 meters, we deal 40% more damage. So you get a boost of damage if you're doing it over a long distance, which is great. And then we have Bone Shatter. This is how it's like a finisher for low health enemies. We have Shockwave for extra damage around us. And then we have Execute. So we deal 40% more damage against enemies low on life, which triggers our Herald of Ash, which is when we overkill enemies, when we deal too much damage to enemies, we trigger that AoE. No gems in that because it requires extra spirit. You don't need it. So yeah, they're like the background moves. They're like the moves you use outside of the big boss fights. The big bosses, we have a combo. Let's talk that. First, Mace Strike. So this is just swinging with your weapons. It's swinging with a dual wielded weapon. So you don't need a gem for that. It's automatically going to be in your gem setup, and it's this. It's just this. It's just your slow swing. So for this, we go 40% armor break. Break 40% more armor with the Demolisher. We take Splinter, break armor equal to 15% physical damage, and then support gems deal 25% more attack damage to enemies that are nearby, which, look at the range, they will be. So basically what we have here is we have a very, very high damage, close range armor break ability. This can break bosses in one hit. Some bosses 2 or 3 hits, but this just destroys armor in a hit or 2. So you just walk up, you left click with Mace Strike, and their armor's broken. Once their armor's broken, you go and do Sunder. And Sunder is your massive AoE, goes in a massive cone and destroys everything. If the armor's broken, it destroys it even more. So Sunder's so good because, like we said, we've got 400% damage, attack damage at this level, and consumes fully broken armor to critically hit, which is why we're breaking the armor with Mace Strike. So on this, we take Upheaval, support skills create 2 additional fissures. They have less speed and deal less damage. So if you look at the damage here, we're on like 3, 3, 3, 3. If we take that out, we actually have like 5, 5. But what we do is we get close to the enemy, and we drop the Sunder, and they get hit by all 3, which is massive. Okay, and then we back that up with this Brutality, 35% more physical damage because we just deal physical damage. And then we take Heavy Swing, 35% more melee physical damage. Now, I think this works right, but correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it does. If we put this in, the damage number goes up, and I'm pretty sure this counts. It says melee physical damage, but this is it's kind of a cone of attacks. However, if you hover over the ability, it says it's a melee ability. It's a melee attack. So I'm pretty sure that works, which is how we get so much damage. So yeah, that's the full build. That's everything. And how you play it, you jump, whereas jump, you leap from pack to pack. Anything that's not blue or yellow will just insta be destroyed as you're jumping around. If you get to a blue or yellow mob, or you want to group up a big pack of like 10, 20 mobs, you just jump to a space off from them and you sunder them all. You just do that big shockwave of attacks and you destroy everything. Bosses, you go mace strike, break their armor, sunder. It's as simple as that. It is an extremely easy build to play, and you have so much health that you just steamroll through the whole campaign. It's really, really good. But yeah, that's it. I think now let's talk the passive tree. Let's go over the full passive tree. On the passive tree, there's something very important to mention. So we're focusing around this node here, this Giant's Blood node. You can wield two-handed weapons in one hand, but triple the attribute requirement of weapons. So the way that works is, say you have a two-handed mace and it needs 100 strength. You need 300 to equip it. Now, you can equip it in both. You can equip it in the left hand, and then you can get another one and put that in the right hand, still with 300 strength. So we need a lot of strength going through this tree. So you're going to see things and you go, oh, why are we taking that? Because we need the strength. Now, one thing helps us out a ton. And if we go in the ascendancy, we're a Titan. What we do is we just go straight down the middle with your first two, your 2 and 2, your first 4 points. You get 4% increased strength, which is huge. You get this, which is like inventory extension, fine. And then you get this, 4% increased strength. So we're at 8%, and then we get this here. 50% increased effect of all small passive skills. So the way that works, let me just quickly explain. This here is an attribute node. This doesn't change. This is still just going to be 5 strength. However, this 12% increased melee damage has been boosted. So I think this was 8. With our buff, it's 12. Yeah, just double check. This was 8% and we get 12. This was 10% and we get 15. So all of these are massively increased. So we go along here, increase damage, increase strength, increase damage, increase damage, increase damage, increase damage to stunned enemies. All of these nodes here, we take strength. We need all of it. Let's take every single strength node and we just follow this line up. When we get to here, we go down and we take this little anchor, increase damage, 200 weapons. We take all of them and then we take this. Increased stun buildup and increased 40% damage with 200 weapons. Huge. We go down again and we take all of these strength nodes in a line until we get to the jewel slot, and then we come along and we get the Giant's Blood. That should be your first priority, getting the Giant's Blood. Once you have that, you'll come along here and you'll go down from here and you'll get this. This is like a super cluster of strength nodes. So you can see here, 12, 12, 12, 12, 25. This node alone here will let you equip pretty much everything in the early game. That's huge. Then you want to come down into here, increased armor, and plus 15 strength. You also get extra armor against crits, but you get 15 more strength. So now you're pretty much good. You're pretty much good with armor. Okay, now I would come up here, along here, and I'd go and get this cluster here. So you've got increased stun, and then 30% increased stun and 5% increased strength. So now you have like tons and tons and tons of strength. You can kind of relax for a little bit. Then you want to come into this cluster here and you want to go increased armor, break increased armor, 60% increased damage against enemies with fully broken armor so that your sunder is critting for even more. And then you want to go here, increased armor break duration. So if a boss is like got you on the run, you can get back in and they've still got the armor break. You take the rest as well for increased damage against fully broken enemies. Once you've got those, I'd go up to here and I'd get this little cluster for increased strength, 7 strength, 7 strength. Then I would come along here and you've got this here. I'd come along here and I'd get these. 4% attack speed, 4% attack speed, 4% attack speed, and 6% attack speed. I'm going there next. I'd get that little cluster as well. Now you've got pretty much everything you need. Then you can go into this little section here for increased damage against stunned enemies, increased damage against stunned enemies, aftershocks, increased damage with maces, and do all that. And you're pretty much good to go. That's pretty much everything you need while leveling. That should set you up all the way to the end of the campaign. That's pretty much everything you'll need. Yeah. If you have any questions or if there's anything you would do differently, let me know. I'm still testing things out, but this has worked very, very, very well for me. I've not struggled on a single boss. I haven't hit a single point in the game yet where I've gone, maybe I need to change my build. Maybe I need to change this passive point, because everything just goes down in seconds. It's completely effortless. So yeah, that's how I've got it. But let me know if you would change anything. But yeah, that's pretty much how you would build this out. I'll go over some tips now for equipment and weapons and things to be looking for. The campaign can be quite rough on not giving you many items, but there are things you can do to make that better. You can trade, you can buy weapons as you level. You can check the vendors every time you get a level and they'll have new weapons. You can use the person where you can, buy a random item and you can get some really good items from that. And you can also craft. I've got a crafting guide, which is on my channel from a couple of days ago, if you've never done crafting, and you can make some really good weapons and I'll show you what you can end up with. So here's the sort of things you'll be looking for in your weapons. So on one of mine here, I've got gem slots, which you can get when they drop. You can get gem slots, and I've got 40% increased physical damage on the gems. That's what you want to be going for, and that's the iron runes. Okay, then the number one stat you want is this here. So if I hold Alt here, physical damage. This number needs to be as high as possible. So that's your main damage, physical damage. So you can see here, this has got 139% increased physical damage. That's so important. And then additionally, you want strength. Plus 19 to strength just means we don't have to worry so much about strength requirements. That's all I would be worried about while leveling. Don't worry about anything else, honestly. That's your main thing. On the other weapon, again, I've got 116% increased physical damage, and I've got plus 3 levels to melee skills, which is a nice boost to damage. But yeah, the main thing, physical damage, melee skills is nice, and strength is nice. But that's it. That's all I'd be looking for. I wouldn't stress about your rings, your neck, your armor. Don't worry about it. Good armor, strength if you can get it, but don't stress anything but your weapons. Only other thing I'd look for is movement speed on your boots. That's nice. Increased armor's nice, but honestly, don't worry about much else. Yeah, that's the build. That's pretty much everything. This build is very fun, very, very high damage, very easy to play. You will breeze through the campaign. I really hope you like it. It's very fun. But that's it. If you like the style of video, do consider subscribing for more. Leave me a comment if there's anything you want to ask, any questions about anything, if I've not been clear on something. And if you have anything that you would improve on, let me know. We're all still learning. Game's only been out like a week or two. So yeah, that's it from me. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.